Hello, this video is about chunks. And what's a chunk? Um, these images are meant to help you sort of understand what a chunk is. Chunk is basically a big piece of something, okay? So soft, chunky cookies are cookies with big pieces of chocolate. Chunky soup is soup with big pieces of something, I guess vegetables and meat, right? And a chunk in language is sort of the same idea. It's a big piece of language, okay? And it's a piece of language that if you learn it, you will be much better at speaking, reading, and writing, okay? So here's an example of a chunk. Would you like another? You've probably heard a lot of sentences that start like this. Would you like another coffee? Would you like another Coke? Would you like another French fry? Right? Um, and if you start your sentence like this, you can end it like almost any way. Any way you use this sentence, you'll always be offering something, but you can change whatever you offer. And you can offer almost anything. Would you like another oil change? Would you like another computer? Yeah. Um, yeah, I wanna, but I really have to. Okay, I wanna go, but I really have to study. I wanna stay, but I really have to go. I wanna sleep, but I really have to finish this essay, right? This is another chunk, or actually, I guess two chunks, right? It's flexible. You can put a lot of different words into these blanks, and then you can keep reusing it in a lot of different situations, right? Anytime you want to show something that your requirements are different from what you want to do, right? The blank was due to blank. Okay, the cancellation was due to traffic, or the traffic was due to weather, or the weather was due to climate change, right? We can finish this sentence a lot of different ways, and we're always saying the same kind of thing, and we always will sound a little bit formal if we use this chunk, but we can use this a lot of different ways, right? To talk about a lot of different causes and effects, right? So those were three examples of chunks. Here's another chunk, and I mean this chunk to help show for you why a chunk is a useful way of learning language, a useful piece of language. Because often when people learn chunks, and children often learn chunks first and then learn words later, they learn many words as one chunk together and then they use those over and over again. So, and if you imagine an American 3-year-old, or really, I guess, any American of any age, but especially around 3, they'll often say this phrase. They'll say, "I don't wanna," right? Do you want to brush your teeth? I don't wanna, right? Do you wanna go to school? I don't wanna, right? Do you want to finish your homework? I don't wanna, right? And think of how the average 3-year-old is thinking about the English that they're using. So when a 3-year-old uses any language, they're not thinking of the grammar. They're not thinking, I need a subject, I'm negating this sentence, so I need a do not, I need a modal verb and a negation, I need not, right? And then my lexical verb will come next. They're not thinking about all that. They're really probably just using a phrase that they learned, I don't know, when they were 2, and they realized is very useful, so they use it for everything, and they use it as if it were one word. And only when they get older will they start to realize that actually this is many words. And to a grammar teacher, maybe it's 5 words, but to someone who's just learning this, it's probably just one word. They just say it like it's one word. And that's actually a useful way to think of it, because you don't have to remember as many words if you just remember this one, right? Of course, you can turn this into grammar. You can change the subject to you don't wanna, right? And maybe a 3-year-old, when they get a little older, will start to do this because they'll realize that chunks are also grammar. They'll start changing the subject to you don't wanna or he don't wanna, and then someone will say, no, you mean he doesn't wanna, and then maybe a 3-year-old will learn some grammar that way. But in their minds, all of these are just chunks that then they will take and use in different situations, right? And you can do that too. And I recommend you use this phrase as much as you can, right? If your host family or your roommate asks you, "Do you want to go to Walmart?" You say, "I don't wanna. I don't wanna. I don't wanna." Try saying it like a 3-year-old, right? Um, so I mentioned words and I mentioned grammar. A chunk is sort of in the middle between words and grammar. If you think of a word like dog, A word is something you really just have to learn one by one. You can't tell a dog, you can't tell anything about a dog based on its form, right? Based on it has a D and it ends with a G. That doesn't tell you anything about it. It doesn't tell you that it's an animal or it has four legs or anything, right? So those words all have a set form and the meanings are just all different from each other. You just have to learn them one by one. Grammar is sort of the opposite. Grammar is a way of combining words in a way that makes their meanings predictable, right? So if you say the dog ran, you know that the dog is the thing that did something in that sentence, right? You know based on the that it's a particular dog, and the speaker thinks you know which dog it is. And then you know what the dog did. Uh, that was a word, but the word's form also told you that this happened in the past, right? And that's grammar. Grammar is very, very flexible, right? When we talk about grammar, we describe grammar using words like past perfect or past simple or something like that, um, that tell you some things about the meaning of the grammar, but the grammar itself will be very almost infinitely flexible based on what words we put in that sentence, right? So chunks are sort of in the middle, right? Chunks are a little bit flexible, but a little bit set in their meaning. And the form also is a little bit flexible, a little bit set. So, for example, dog is a word, give up is an idiom. Both of those you just have to learn case by case. Give up is not related to give and not related to up. I mean, at least the meaning is not, right? Um, and then grammar is so flexible that when we talk about grammar, we often just use words like, oh, we need a subject, we need a verb, etc. Chunks are more set than that. For example, take this first chunk as an example. May I help you? That chunk, you can't really change any of those words um, and keep the same chunk, right? To use this chunk in the situation, when you use this chunk, you always use may I help you, right? It's never might I help you or never would I help you, right? It's always may I help you. Sometimes can I help you, right? Um, but there's a little bit of flexibility because what comes after that can be almost anything, right? May I help you finish that? May I help you carry that? May I help you with that? May I help you with your bags, etc. There's some flexibility, but there's also it's partly set because you only use it in situations where you're offering to help someone, and and because those words almost always come in that order. Okay, so chunks are sort of between words and grammar in both their meaning and their set form. Okay. So, as you probably guessed by the example of I don't wanna, if you know many chunks, you can sound very fluent in a language, even if you don't know a lot of grammar. If your grammar is not very flexible or not very accurate, you can still say a lot if you just know chunks like I don't wanna, may I help you, can I help you? I'm done. I'll have that, right? And actually, knowing a language fluently, knowing a language well, means you know many chunks. If you think of what a person trying to learn your first language sounds like, uh, often they just can't find the most natural word to fit in any sentence. Like they'll say I don't know much French or Chinese. They'll say 我不想, but they'll use the wrong word instead of shang. They'll say 我不要 or something like that, right? And it's just they just haven't heard enough people say that before, where they know that that's 我不想 is. Sorry about my accent. Where that they know that that is the right word to go there, right? And knowing English is the same thing. If you just hear a lot of language where you know what words usually come in what place, and it's not necessarily good grammar, you've just heard the right word there many, many times, you can sound very natural, and it's not a matter of grammar. It's more a matter of vocabulary, but it's not really a matter of grammar. And often this knowledge is not in the same place in your brain as grammar knowledge. It's often sitting below the surface what we would call subconscious knowledge that you don't even know you have, but if you read a lot, you definitely have it. Or if you hear a lot of English, you definitely have it. So finishing a sentence like all the money in the, sorry, that's not a sentence, the phrase, all the money in the blank, doesn't require good grammar. Grammar can tell you you need a noun there, but it doesn't tell you which noun you need. And if you know a lot of chunks, if you've had a lot of experience listening to English and reading English, you will know that that word should be world, all the money in the world, but it's not a matter of grammar, right? You've just heard that before, okay? So one very useful thing about chunks is that they're reusable. You can use them over and over again, okay? So take this sentence as an example. By utilizing characters' ways of speaking, Dickens accomplishes a vivid atmosphere for the story. So that's not a chunk. That's plagiarism. If you use that in your essay, like if you saw that written somewhere in a blog and you copy that into your essay, that would be plagiarism, and your teacher would probably give you a 0 for the assignment. But some of the words in that sentence and the order that they come in, you can reuse, okay? For example, starting a sentence with by utilizing blank blank comma is very, very normal. And that's not plagiarism. That's just a chunk. That's just the way people say that in English, okay? And what's nice about this is that it's not plagiarism. It's used by many, many people, so you can use it too, okay? That's a chunk. A chunk is not plagiarism. A chunk is reusable by anybody, okay? So what's the difference between those? Chunks are not unique to one person, okay? Like I don't wanna is not unique to the 3-year-old that you know, okay? Every 3-year-old says that. In the same way, by utilizing blank comma is not plagiarism. It's a chunk. It's reused by everybody. It's not unique to this writer. The whole sentence is unique to this writer. Or probably when you get to by utilizing characters' ways of speaking, that sequence is probably unique to this writer. But by utilizing blank, 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 comma is not. Okay. So I'm going to show you a tool that you can use to find the difference between a chunk and what might be plagiarism. And I hope you'll use that as you're looking for chunks that you can use in your writing or your speaking. So let's go on a chunk hunt right now. I was reading the news earlier today. It's May 7th, by the way. And I saw this article about Trump's press secretary. So it's 2020. Trump is president, and he has this press secretary named Kayleigh McEnany. It's an interesting name, isn't it? So I'm just going to, if I can get to the article. Here we go. I'm just going to read and try to find something that I think I can probably reuse. Before she became a fierce advocate for him. This might be chunky. These two words together, fierce advocate for him. Not him in particular, but for anybody. So I'm actually going to copy paste that into Coca. If you don't know how to use Coca, check out one of my other videos. Coca is very, very useful. Okay, so I'm just going to search for fierce advocate for, and I'm going to put star because I want anybody there. And let's see. Fierce advocate for fierce advocate for women, fierce advocate for us. So out of the whole corpus, this occurs 22 times. It's a little bit chunky. Let me try something else. Adjective. Any adjective, advocate for anything. Register. Sorry. Okay, we're back. Adjective, advocate for somebody. Strong advocate, advocate for the, outspoken advocate for the, advocate for the. Okay, so I found something that's pretty chunky, probably something that I can reuse in my essays, which is adjective, advocate for the something. So if I were writing an essay, I might say something like, the professors in universities are strong advocates for the improvement of education, or something like that. And this tells me, finding this in the corpus tells me a lot of people say this. Well, 14 people, but a lot of people use other adjectives. Strong is just the most common. And that tells me it's safe to use, right? It wasn't just this author who used fierce advocate. That means this is not plagiarism. It's just the way a lot of people would phrase this. So we found a chunk. We found blank advocate for the, right? And I hope you'll do the same when you're reading. You'll look not just for individual words in your dictionary or grammar like present perfect, I don't know, past simple, things like that, but also chunks, and then chunks that you can reuse in your own writing and in your own speaking. All right, thanks for listening.